Welcome, thank you for joining us today. I am Lance Cam, one of the faculty in BME, and on behalf of this fine crew that you see in the slide in front of you, welcome to our open house. We appreciate the opportunity to tell you a bit about what we do, what the career is about, in hopes of answering your questions and helping you make that choice about what major you're going to be going into. I guess in short, biomedical engineering is about taking these skills that we have that are central to engineering, circuits, materials, a real quantitative approach, systems ideas, and applying it to both understanding human physiology and then making devices and things that are going to help improve human health. And perhaps more than just defining it, the best place to go to see what this is like in action is our webpage, bme.columbia.edu. We have a number of things on here, just as some examples of what's currently on there. On the lower left, you see some of the activity from Professor Vunjak Novakovic's laboratory, where they're getting much closer to actually synthesizing jawbones, a very difficult structure to recreate, creating these from stem cells, being able to create both the form and the function of these things using ideas from materials, using ideas about how stem cells behave and how you can culture them to grow into a real functional kind of a system. That's one big part of what biomedical engineering is about. In the middle of that slide, we see a story about COVID-19 testing. This is Professor Sam Sia's work. They have been very busy this past spring and summer, trying to come up with ways to make really deployable COVID-19 testings to make it more affordable, make it more so we can actually make this a more routine kind of a system. They have a number of cool technologies that really come from doing molecular biology, genomics, and these kind of disciplines. And the challenge for biomedical engineering is trying to put this into a system that we can actually use and make widely available. Some other activities in that top middle neurotrack. This is a project from a senior design group, and they are taking electrical engineering techniques to measure the brain waves that you can get through the scalp, and use that to understand the problem of epilepsy, what's going on in the patient when the times maybe when they're not right there in the doctor's office. This is a wearable system that they can have for continuous monitoring and to understand what is going on with them on a more continual basis. So those are just some of the other activities. Please come to our website to learn about those and more. Also, there's some profiles of some people on that page, as well as some other events. We have a webinar on Fridays. I can tell you more about what biomedical engineering is about. These are open webcasts. We bring in people from around the country to come talk about what's going on in their laboratories and what their work is about. So yes, the idea of a major. To give you an idea about how big our class size is, we just graduated the class of 2020 last spring. We had 52 graduates who are in some very really compelling positions now. Be happy to talk a bit to you about them more in our breakout rooms afterwards. Our upcoming class sizes are about 40 to 47 people. So it's a nice community of students in which you would be part of. I want to give you a little bit of idea of beyond the courses and things that Helen will be telling you about in a little bit, what kind of other I guess career-oriented or community-oriented things we have going on in the department. We are the home to a nice set of student chapters of national organizations. BMES is perhaps the biggest and the most broadly recognized society around biomedical engineering. It's wonderfully encompassing of both research, all types of research, and educational kind of goals. Kelly Poo, one of the co-presidents of our student chapter, will be talking a little bit later about that. We also have a Society for Biomaterials for students who are more interested in working specifically on biomaterials like that jawbone. And also, we also have a student chapter of IEEE, which is electrical engineering oriented. So more signals processing, a lot more about like the EEG cap for looking at epilepsy. So we have some organizations, student chapters to organize your activities within the career. In the department, we also have a new initiative on diversity, equity, and inclusion, in which we're really trying to advance our department culture to be inclusive, actively fight racism, overcome prejudice, and basically have really focus on being sure we have a supportive environment for everyone. On the next slide, we have some other activities for outreach and getting really involved in community beyond research to become a teacher. Every summer we have the HK Maker Lab. This is a summer experience led by Professor Aaron Kyle, in which the high school students from the local area and across the NYC come in and spend time learning the principles of engineering, particularly as applies to biomedical engineering. So it's a good opportunity for students to get involved in the educational side of this career as well. We also have another program on the next slide, the Youth Sports Lab. This focuses specifically on the use of engineering to understand sports and how physiology fits into it. It's another nice experience in which you would be able to connect with students in the local area. So with that, I'll turn it over to Helen.
Thank you, Professor Cam. So my name is Helen Sen, and I'm the department's academic and student affairs manager. I mainly help our undergrad students in terms of fulfilling their major requirements with the department. So today I'll talk a little bit about that. This table that you see here is directly pulled from the school's bulletin. Now, I omitted the first and second year of your study because that's something you will discuss and plan out with your CSA advisor. Whereas once you enter your junior year with us, you'll start off in a series of sequential courses with the department. And so you can see here in your first and second semester, there's a sequential course in Biomedical Engineering 1 and Biomedical Engineering 2. And then you'll have here BME Lab 1 and BME Lab 2 as well, and also Quantitative Physiology 1 and Quantitative Physiology 2. These are sequential courses designed to introduce you to various fields in the biomedical engineering sector. And so you get to explore and know a little bit more about each field area. Professor Lance Cam actually teaches Quantitative Physiology 1. And so you guys will have some very awesome time with him and learning about things from the cellular level. Once you advance into QP2, Quantitative Physiology 2, you go more into the organ and system level, right, Professor Cam? Yes. So you can see here, there's a biostatistics for engineers course in your first semester with us as well. That course is widely popular amongst our graduate students as well. It's a very rewarding course for students to have, especially if you're interested in doing research with different faculty, right? And then once you enter in your senior year, the required course left would be senior design, which we call BME design. And you'll have a lot more time to do your technical elective requirements. In terms of that, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about the tech elective requirements. The courses has to be at least 3,000 level or above. There's a total of 7 tech electives that are required. 2 of which has to be BME engineering content tech electives. So it has to come from the department itself. And then 3 can be the engineering schools department that are ABET certified and has to have engineering content in them as well. If you look at the bulletin under our department section, there's a specific list of those departments and courses that are excluded from this requirement as well. There are some courses that do not have engineering content. Like for example, if it were an entrepreneurship-based course, then those would not have tech elective, engineering content in them. And then you have the remainder 2 tech elective requirement that can be general tech electives. So it could be from the biology department, from the CS department, from the IEOR department. Those 2 engineering departments, CS and IEOR, are actually not ABET certified. So if you take courses from them, they will count as general tech electives instead. We have a lot of pre-med students that would take Orgo 1 and 2, and so those actually count as general tech electives as well. So it's quite flexible in terms of the 2 general tech electives required for students. And then over here you can see a list of the non-ABET certified departments here. So those are excluded from the engineering content ones, right? So here are a list of fields in BME. A lot of students come into the department without knowing specifically which area they want to specialize in. And to be honest, a lot of students don't just focus in one single area. Some do, some focus on 1 or 2 of them, just because it's hard to really decide on one thing at the early stages of your career. These field areas all have a suggested list of courses that you can take if you're interested in learning more and or specializing in that field. You can find those on the bulletin as well. Just to emphasize on the word suggested, right? The list of suggested courses are just there for advising purposes. You're not required to fulfill every and single one of them listed for a certain field area, but they do provide a really good guideline for you when you're choosing courses, when you're choosing your technical elective courses to take. And certainly your faculty advisor at the time will be a good resource for you in terms of choosing your tech electives as well. And now, without further ado, I will hand the mic over to Kelly, our president for our student organization, BMES. Kelly, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, Helen. So yeah, I'm Kelly. I'm a junior in BME, and I'm one of the co-presidents of the Biomedical Engineering Society. We usually shorten our name as BMES, and I'm just going to quickly introduce our student organization. So Columbia BMES, like Professor Cam mentioned, is a chapter of the National BMES organization, and our mission is to build, support, and expand the undergraduate BME community. And we do this through 3 main initiatives. Next slide. Yeah. So the first is professional development. This is like internship, research, career-related events. We just had our annual lab open house virtually a few weeks ago. So a few professors and grad students came and talked about their research and virtual research opportunities. And if you're interested in this, we have a recording of the session, so you can reach out to us. And in the past, we've had like career panels with alumni and upperclassmen, biotech tours, and info sessions with BME companies like BD and Stryker. So this year, all our events are going to be virtual. And on the professional development side of things, I believe we're having a series of workshops on like SolidWorks, Python, R, those kinds of skills later this semester. And I think we're also planning on having a startup panel later this semester. Our next initiative is Student Life. So this is more on the social and community building side of things. When we were all in person and on campus, we would have like study breaks, game nights, mentorship, families, and every spring we would have a big barbecue with the whole department, which was always super fun. We're potentially going to do mentorship families later this semester. I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, we're still planning on having like socials over Zoom. And we also used to always do a major declaration party in person. So we're going to plan something virtual for this year. And lastly, we're involved with outreach to middle and high schoolers in the New York City area. We've typically like brought students to campus and taught them workshops to get them interested in STEM and BME. So for example, we used to always do a prosthetic hand workshop where we had 3D printed the hand parts and the kids would have to put them together. And again, we're working on some virtual workshops in bioethics and other BME topics for outreach. So yeah, if any of that sounds interesting to you and you want to stay like up to date with our latest events, definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We make Facebook events for everything, so that's definitely like the best way of staying like up to date. And you can also subscribe to our mailing list for weekly updates on our events as well as other relevant opportunities. And I'll put our link to the mailing list in the chat in 1 second. Yeah, and if you have any questions about BMES or the BME major, feel free to email us or talk to me.
Thank you, Kelly. And so that actually concludes our presentation for today.